Hi, I'm Laura from allyou'llneed.com. Today, I'm talking to you about working in special needs ministry with kids who have language disorders. Language disorders occur when kids have trouble understanding what we tell them or when they have trouble communicating what they want to us. This can make working with these kids very difficult. I have some tips to help out with that. As an adult, if someone talks about David and Goliath, just those words, David and Goliath, can bring up a whole host of thoughts in me. We can have a discussion about that. And when working in special needs ministry, I want to share all of my knowledge with the kids. I have to remember that's not the goal. What I need to do is present the lesson in a format where God's message reaches the kids. In the story of David and Goliath, we have some pretty common words like stones, river, giant. Let's not replace those words. If you're going to call it stones, call it a stone. Don't say stones in one sentence and rocks in the other. Call it a river. Don't call it a stream or a creek. We have to use the same words over and over to reach these kids. Children with language disorders need a lot of meaningful repetitions to really learn, understand, and to use and to own words and concepts. Research varies, but it can be up from to 40 to 75 meaningful exposures to really learn those concepts. That can be hard to fit into special needs ministry in the time allotment that we have, but it's not impossible. I know that none of us ask for a lesson in patience because why would we ask God for that? But working in special needs ministry is a lesson in patience. We need to simplify our language and use a lot of exposures. So in the story of David and Goliath, we could just say, God is with us, and say that over and over again. We mean well by talking to the children and giving them all of our life experience and what we know. The thing is, if a kid does not have a firm foundation in their understanding, the knowledge that we're throwing at them is like sticking spaghetti on the wall. It may stick, it may not. We might as well be Charlie Brown's teacher saying, wah, wah, wah. So be sure to pick a key concept that you want the child to know in each Bible lesson. It may not be that David killed Goliath. It might be God is with us. That's a more general and more relatable concept. When we say God is with us, that applies to a lot of the Bible. And we can also relate our own experiences with simplified stories and talk to the kids about when they felt that God was with them. If we're using too much language, if our words are too complicated or the concepts are too complicated for the kids, they're going to let us know. And it will not be in ways where they raise their hands and say, hey, Miss Laura, I didn't understand that. Can you repeat it? The way that our kids are going to show us that they're not understanding what we're telling them and that we're not reaching them is through behaviors. They'll get up and try to leave the session. They will engage in behaviors that are disruptive so they don't have to listen to us anymore. That's what we're trying to prevent. I'm not saying that all behaviors are related to too much language. Too much language can be a factor. So it's one thing that we can control, and it is one thing to look out for and to put into practice when working in special needs ministry. By the same token, a child can also tell us when they've learned enough or when we've repeated too much. They may become physically aggressive or they may speak back to us in a mocking tone. That's a signal that it's time to cut the repetition and to move on to something else. If you need some help with simplifying language and repeating meaningful exposures over and over again, I have a few things for you that I'll link below. The first is an editable take-home sheet that parents can use so that you can communicate what the lesson was and what the message was. That way it can be carried out throughout the week. The second thing that you can do in special needs ministry is play a game called Bible Ball. This is also a free game that I have for you. So it goes over the key concepts in the lesson. Basically, you take a ball with different colors on it. you need some kind of goal. It doesn't have to be a basketball goal. It could be a basket or a bucket or even a person outstretching their arms. And when the child catches the ball, they match up the color to the question. So that way you get in who was in the story, what was the message of the story, and kids will play this for a long time. This is also a great game for teen volunteers. The big deal with volunteers, whether adults or teens, is you have to be willing to lose at this game. Never let one of the kids in special needs ministry lose a game. That's terrible. We want them to feel good about coming to church, and if they beat a teen or adult, they're going to feel good about that, and it really gets in the repetition in a fun way. If you're ahead, like you're ahead 20 to 2, for example, then you can say, hey, I know the points say 2, but if you answer this question, I'll give you 1,000 points. Kids love that. So be sure to click the link below to download the lesson. I hope that this has helped you. If you like the tips, then be sure to subscribe below. Next week, we'll start talking about how to adapt specific lessons for special needs ministry. Thanks for watching.